It's September 2nd, 2015. We're in the last phases of summer and we are moving. And this is the room, the magical room of my title for this video. And I guess I'm in a little bit of a melancholy state. I moved here in February 2002, so this has been 13 and a half years, my 14th summer here, and we have a 2,800 square foot house on 3 1/3 acres, and with about 55 acres of pasture around us, and we're gonna go to a new life with a new home, brand new home, and all new things in a subdivision and downsize, and kind of thinking towards retirement. And so it's going to be a completely new life, and going to do different things. And so it's Wednesday evening and we're closing the sale on this Friday afternoon, so have less than 48 hours left here. And I guess there's maybe a little echo in here. The room, I wanted to wait till the room was completely empty. This is an upstairs room, and that's a west window there. We're in the late summer afternoon, early evening, and then this other window is north, facing the backyard and the pond out back. But this is the best room I ever had in my life. It's huge. I had a workstation over here for my work, my business, and then I had bookshelves, and I had a rocker and footstool that actually my mother, I'm 60 years old, my mother rocked me in that rocker and when I was a baby, and I had a light with it and I'd sit there and read, and then we had a huge sectional in this corner, and we had a stereo and TV and watch movies up here. But it was a fabulous room. It's, like I say, the best room I ever had. And I used to, tongue-in-cheek, call it my world headquarters. And had such, like I say, nice views. There's a huge pecan tree right outside here. And then a large hackberry, which you can see some of my other videos where I walked around the property in May and into June and talked about all this outside. And the hackberry has now become the tallest tree on the property. Originally it was the pecan by it, but it's outgrown it over the 14 summers I've been here. Unfortunately, the webworms are bad this year, so it kind of spoils the view. But we have good years and bad years. We've had 50 inches of rain since May 5th, and apparently I notice rain tends to suppress the webworms, but boy, once it stopped, the rain let up, they really are having a big year. So I wish they weren't there in my last video from here, but that's the way it is, and there's the pond out there. But this was my magical room, and in April, May, when it was mild weather, I'd open the windows and the birds would be migrating back to spring migration, and I could hear the birds and saw all sorts of things, bird events, unusual things. And I would work up here. This is where I'd come up and first thing in the morning check emails or whatever, and then leave and go to work, and then come back in the evenings and work up here, and then on weekends. But it was just a wonderful room, and now we're going to another phase of our life, so it's going to be a little bit of a shock. I mowed everything in the last 2 days for the purchasers, the buyers, and wanted to have it looking really nice for them. And so everything's mowed. And I have to admit, I was right out here where I'm pointing the camera in the west yard. I was on the tractor, and it was like I say, my 14th summer. And I was down to like the last 3-4 wets of mowing, and I realized that this is it. I'm done. 14 summers mowing this and planting trees and, you know, maintaining it and trying to keep it somewhat natural. And there's a flycatcher, probably an eastern phoebe down there sitting on that lower branch on that pecan tree right now. Actually, I think it's an eastern wood pewee. He's not wagging his tail, and I've been hearing him some. And there's my post oak out there that I planted. I believe I planted it that first year of 2002. Boy, it's been a good one. And but anyway, I was on those last few swaths mowing, and all of a sudden it hit me. This is it. I've mowed this 14 summers, and I'm done. And I have to admit, I started crying. It was just the memories all came back, and realizing I'm leaving. And I've thought about this last week. We've spent 50 days getting ready to move, and I had already thought that the one thing that I'm most emotional about is remembering the dogs we had here that are dead now. And Sammy, my beloved white lab, died March 29th this year, and I really missed her this summer. She'd always get all excited when I mowed, and when it was hot in the summer, she'd run out there and jump in the pond and swim. Then they would go over to what I call the rock garden here, her and Eddie, my little Cairn Terrier, who's still alive. And that's that grassy area out there where that cypress is. And they would, apparently it was frogs. They chased frogs around in there. They didn't kill them or anything, but it was a great game for them. And then they get tired of that. It'd be so hot. And Sammy would come and get under a tree wherever I was mowing and watch me mow. And after she did that for 10 summers. I counted it up, and I really missed her this summer. That was just kind of part of the ritual, and I just couldn't. I never got used to it this summer, her not being out there. She was always there, and she'd lay in the shade and watch me mow after she was done with swimming and playing. And Eddie, the Cairn Terrier, that was his buddy, and he won't go out this summer. He just loved going out there with her, and I can't get him to go out. And he just stays in now when I mow. And so he's grieving. There's a bluebird just landed out there on that dead branch you can see. And so things have changed. Going into a different phase of life. But I was doing those last swaths, and I've been thinking that the last few days anyway. It's the memories of Sammy, and we had Buddy, this 150-pound black lab. And we had Roscoe, a Cocker Spaniel, and Sammy lived her whole life here, 10 years. This was her whole life. She hit the jackpot, because she had a pond, and she went hiking with me out the lake, and so, we're moving on now and taking our 2 small terriers with us. And Eddie, the Cairn Terrier, and Sparky, the West Highland Terrier. But that's what's bothered me the most, odd way, is the memory of the dogs we had here that are gone now. And then I think the second thing that it makes me rather sad is all the birds and the wildlife and all the trees, and I trimmed them and watched out for them, and I'll miss that too. So people think of different things when they move, and maybe it's family memories or whatever, but human memories, I guess. I have memories of humans, but mine are memories of animals, and that's just how my consciousness is geared. And I learned a lot out here. I'd studied ecosystems and habitats even before I came here, but that's how I saw this. It was all interconnected, and we were just, I know it wouldn't last forever. We were passing through, but I did try to be a good steward. I made a few mistakes, but I I try to be a good steward here. And so I'm happy to say the Byers is a biologist, is one of them. And so I'm leaving it in good hands, and it makes me feel much better as we go to another phase of our life. And, people see life differently. Some see it as linear or continuous, and, they maybe don't leave their hometown or they I always saw it in phases. You did different phases of your life, and you went on to different things. And actually, I lived here 13 and a half years, the longest I ever lived anywhere in my life. So, and it was a wonderful place to live. It was a perfect place to live. And but I'm prepared and ready to go. But it's just that time. It's kind of reflect a little bit. We've been, like I say, 50 plus days of preparing, and actually how crazy it's been is late in 2008 we started talking about, in theory, moving. And I told my wife, we got a lot of stuff. This is going to take a while. We can't just all of a sudden just pick up and move. And I added up, we had 6,500 square foot of stuff here and elsewhere in another house. And late in '08, I got rid of an extra vehicle. And we started, and then in '09, we started doing stuff, getting rid of stuff. We gave things away. We took stuff to auction. We sold stuff on eBay, Craigslist. We gave stuff to nephews, nieces. They were going off to college. That her family had a garage sale for 2 or 3 years in a row in May, and we'd haul a van load over there, and then what we didn't sell, we'd give to Goodwill. And then later on, just recently, Facebook's gotten to be a good place to sell things. We've sold a bunch of stuff this summer, actually in the last 50 days. And we got it down to 2 storage units, big ones. And we're waiting to close on our new house next week. And it's a brand new house. It'll be the first new house I've ever lived in. This one was less than 4 years old when I moved here. It was new to me. It was a beautiful, huge house. And but we're moving to a brand new house, get new furniture, I have new appliances. It's energy efficient, tested and certified, and it has a much smaller yard than this. Hardly anybody has a bigger yard than this. There's a guy down the road about a mile that does. I think his is bigger. But I mow over 2 acres, counting, and in the plus I think I counted the road when I calculated it. I mow on the easement, the ditches, and but anyway, we're going to start all over with new stuff. We're selling all of our furniture out of here, and we've sold a lot of it already, and we're getting ready to sell the rest of it after closing, and we're just going to buy all new stuff and start over, and like I say, start a new life, a different phase. And I'm going to leave here, and I've been prepared for it. I've been in poor health, and it's become more difficult to maintain this and mow it, and I have to take pain pills to do things outside, and so then that progressed over a period of years, last several years, so last 3-4 years especially, and so that helped me transition and accept the fact I had to leave here, and really needed to change my lifestyle, what I was doing, and so it's not as tough as it would have been if it had just been I'd felt great and was enjoying it out here and then very abruptly moved. So I don't have that shock. But I do have kind of a shock on as I had to start taking medications and having surgeries and procedures and taking hydrocodone pain pills. It has affected my consciousness. And I look at this place, and when I first moved here, and my office up here, and like I say, I called it jokingly my world headquarters. I think a lot of it's because of the medications. I'm not that person anymore, and that was like somebody else. And what do? You have these health issues, and you have to start taking medications, and and it's ones you have to have. I mean, to be able to even to function without pain and different things, and so it is truly a new phase. I'm not that person anymore. It's just that simple, and So, that's the price you pay getting older for one reason, and then, having health problems, and you can be any age really to have health problems and have to take medications, and they do affect your consciousness. I know that. And so it has changed here, and I have changed. And to philosophize a little bit, as Robert Pirsig used to say, who wrote Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance and Lila. He talked about philosophers and then philosophizers, a practical application of it. I see life as phases, Some see it continuous. I see it as phases, and you go on and you around different people, or maybe I've lived in different states and, different jobs, and some people just live in the same place forever and never move. And I'm actually only 7 miles, air miles or less than that, from where I grew up, but it was in town in a neighborhood, and this is kind of isolated. It's like I'm not even near that place, so it is mentally different. I feel like I'm further away, and then my parents and sister are buried within 7 air miles of here, and it's where I'll be buried someday. And we're moving about 30 minutes away towards Tulsa, where I'll be closer to things over there, and healthcare system, frankly. I'll be closer to doctors and the hospital and places I have to go for procedures or whatever. It's more convenient. You never think it'll happen to you, but you get older, and all of a sudden, I didn't even have a doctor most of my life other than childhood, and now I got like 5, 6 doctors, different specialists, so that's the way it works. But I would raise these windows in the spring migration, and I would hear the birds coming in, and I'd hear the first birds of the first of season, birds, and I saw some amazing things out here. The most amazing story to me personally was I had Baltimore Orioles here, and they go around to the trees and sing, marking their territory. And they'd come to this hackberry and pecan here, and then they go down the tree row over here and go around the house. There's a pecan on the other side at the shop, and they were staking out their territory. Well, there was one year, it was like 04, 05, something like that. There was one, Baltimore Orioles showed up, and he had a very distinctive song. And it was a little snappy little song. Most of them, it's not that impressive a song, but he had quite the little song he put together. It was very distinctive. And I heard him all spring, starting April, May, into June. He'd go around singing, and I'd have the windows open up here, and I'd hear him every day I was here with the windows up and working, and then the season ended, breeding season, and he left. So the next spring, I'm sitting up here in April, and the birds are coming back the next year, and I'm sitting here, and I'll never forget, all of a sudden, I heard that song again, that very distinctive Oriole song, a Baltimore Oriole, male Baltimore Oriole, and it was him. I mean, it was exactly the same bird. I've never heard another Baltimore Oriole have that song. He had a very distinctive, snappy little tune he'd put together, and I'll never forget it sitting here at my desk. I go, wait a minute, that's that same song from last year. That's that same bird. And so he had left for the winter, and they go down to like central, into South America, and a lot of them go to those coffee plantations. That's why they have that, I think it's a rainforest alignment, has that bird-friendly coffee or something, where those birds go to some of those coffee plantations, including Orioles, and they try to protect them there. And so anyway, he'd gone for the winter and went to Central South America somewhere, and came right back here to the same trees the next spring in April. And we went again. We went another year, another spring and breeding season, and I heard him singing that distinctive song. And then the third year he didn't come back. I didn't hear that song, so I guess he didn't make it back. But anyway, that was probably the most amazing story. I would see the first scissortail fly. It'll be a while before I post this, probably. I don't have time, but I thought of one more bird story. There was a Buick's wren. They're a little harder to come by than the Carolina wren. I have one that's been hanging around all summer in the landscaping, but I was sitting up here and I heard this noise, a bird, and I came over here and looked, and there was a bird right on that pecan tree trunk down there, about 3-4 feet up it, kind of going up the trunk. And I looked, I had my binoculars, and I looked, and it wasn't in Carolina. I'm going, what is that? And he was making a little bit of a fuss, so I ran back my computer over here at the workstation, and I pulled up like eBird or All About Birds or something, and I looked at the photo, and I think it's a Buick's wren. And like I say, I've seen one about a mile from here with some birders one time on a field trip, but you don't run into them all the time. And then I played the call off the website, and it was exactly what I heard. And so I thought, boy, that's the easiest one on Buick's wren I'll ever get. Just right here, looking out the window, going up the pecan tree, and then he gave his call, and I played it on the internet, and it matched, and ticked him off as one of the 136 species I've got here. So that was a long shot. If he hadn't done the call, I wouldn't have been absolutely certain. I was fairly certain from the photos, but I think that's what it is. And then I played the call, and yep, that's what I heard. Well, my 14th summer here and my last summer. Everything's mowed for the new owners, new buyers, the new stewards, and I think they'll be good stewards. So that really made me happy to know it was a biologist. That was my ideal profile to turn this over to. I didn't think it would really happen though. I thought it'd be somebody, a retired professional, like in tech or something like, I don't know, an IBM middle manager or something, that engineer type maybe, that liked all this. I just saw a monarch. I started seeing the monarchs a few weeks ago. I saw one, and now I'm seeing them every day. So the monarch butterflies are coming through. It's early September in northeast Oklahoma. So that part of my wish, prayer, hope is fulfilled. I can't believe it. Be someone exactly who I wanted, really, to take this over that would appreciate it and understands habitat, ecosystems, because I did try to maintain the integrity of it. And I know the suburbs, a lot of this looks grown over, but it makes perfect sense. If you study habitats and ecosystems, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. And that's why I left that grown area out there. Actually, that was a low area that kept getting wet, and I got tired of mowing through the mud, and I just expanded it out and then planted a cypress, and now there's another tree out there. So I imagine that's a persimmon. There's persimmons growing on the pond. Actually, I noticed I mowed the trail around the pond, up on the pond berm today, and I noticed the persimmons were falling on the trail, so they're ripe. And I was thinking about that. I hadn't seen them in a few years, but every once in a while I have a Luna moth, which are just those fabulous green moths. And I remember when I got one, I researched what, about them, and they like persimmons trees. And so I always figured that's why I have them, is because there's a bunch of persimmon trees on the pond. I guess I'm having trouble saying goodbye or signing off. I just keep looking, and I was out there, like I say, and I was mowing, and the wind was blowing. It was about 3 or 4 p.m. And I was mowing right out there, and it was the last time I'd mow it. And I did start crying, and it was more the memories. It wasn't so much I was moving, because I've accepted that over the last few years as my health got worse, and I just can't do it anymore. So it wasn't that. I've accepted it. It was just those memories, and I can't comprehend it. 14 summers here, and mowing and planting trees and trimming bushes, and I even started letting this grow right below that hackberry. You can see that high grass. There's rocks in there. I talked about that in one of my videos. I'd always raise the deck and mow around those rocks in there, and then it was last year. I thought, why am I doing this? Just let it grow up, and probably a tree will come, and then I'll have another tree, you know. So I started letting that grow, and I call that my grassland preserve. It's a small one, but it's the memories of the dogs, and like I talked about, Sammy and Buddy and Roscoe, and just the first few years of discovering all this and IDing the trees and bushes. And I tend to let plants come up around the trees or different spots. It'll be something, well, that looks interesting. I'll just let it grow. Just see what it's going to do or what it looks like. I told that story of this mulberry that came up during the 2-year drought, 2011 and 12. Boy, it's gotten big. You can see it over there. It's taller than the house now. It's right there. And it just had a fabulous year with all this rain. Had mulberries. I looked at those in a video. And the Baltimore Orioles love that tree, so I'm glad I let it grow. I carried buckets of water in that 2-year drought when it came up. And it grew up right by the fence. And I guess I missed it with the Roundup. And once I realized it was a tree, I, of course, nurtured it, and you know, a lot of people don't like mulberries because of the berries, but it's I never saw a mulberry on the ground, and it was full of them. Those birds ate every one of them. I never saw a mulberry on the ground. It wasn't there for long. I wanted to say farewell and go on to another life. And I'll probably post some more videos about the dogs. We'll still go to the lake in the winter and hike like we did before. So that won't change. We'll just have to drive from a different house. We'll move on to our new home and new stuff, everything new, and it'll be different. We'll have to adjust, and we'll start doing different things, and you know, we'll have more time. For sure, with all new stuff, new house. I just wanted to reminisce about my room, my magical room, and while I was here by myself in the house, and say farewell.